Alright, hey, the Detroit Lions continue proving that this roster belongs among the NFL's elite, and the latest national evaluations only reinforce something that many Lions fans have believed for a long time. One by one, respected league executives, scouts, general managers, and personnel evaluators are placing Detroit players among the very best at their positions, creating another wave of recognition for a team that has spent the last several seasons building its reputation through consistent performance instead of hype. And what's especially interesting is that this isn't simply one analyst offering an opinion. These rankings are based on evaluations from people whose full-time job is studying talent across the entire league, making the recognition even more meaningful. The newest positional rankings have added several more Detroit Lions players to the list of the NFL's elite, continuing a trend that has already seen Jahmyr Gibbs ranked as the number 2 running back, Penei Sewell recognized as the number 1 offensive tackle, Aiden Hutchinson ranked 5th among defensive ends, and Sam LaPorta already earning recognition among the league's top tight ends. Now, another group of Lions stars has joined that conversation, showing just how balanced this roster has become on both sides of the football. One of the biggest storylines centers around Jared Goff finally receiving more national respect. After years of criticism and constant debates about whether he truly belongs among the league's top quarterbacks, Goff has officially landed inside the top 10 at his position, coming in at number 9. While many Detroit fans will probably argue that he deserves an even higher ranking, simply seeing him included reflects how difficult it has become for the football world to ignore what he has accomplished. The comments from league evaluators paint a very clear picture of why Goff earned his spot. One NFL coordinator described him as a quarterback who consistently finds completions whenever he isn't under heavy pressure, calling him a mature pocket passer with a strong arm capable of delivering accurate throws at every level of the field. Those compliments are backed by production rather than reputation. Over the past 2 seasons, Jared Goff has thrown for approximately 9,100 passing yards while recording 71 touchdown passes. Even more impressive, only 4 quarterbacks in NFL history have produced more 4,500-yard passing seasons than Goff's 5. The names ahead of him are Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, and Peyton Manning. That's incredibly exclusive company, yet Goff still finds himself fighting for recognition almost every offseason. Many people around the league continue judging quarterbacks based on style instead of production, but Goff's numbers continue speaking louder than many of the narratives surrounding him, while quarterbacks like Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and even younger rising stars continue generating excitement. Goff has quietly continued producing elite statistics while leading one of the NFL's most explosive offenses. His placement at 9th may represent progress, but plenty of Lions fans will likely believe that rankings still fall short of reflecting his actual value. The recognition doesn't stop with the offense. Detroit's defense also continues receiving national attention, beginning with linebacker Jack Campbell. Although he did not crack the very top of the rankings, his body of work continues forcing people to acknowledge just how quickly he has developed into one of the league's premier linebackers. Campbell's production speaks for itself. He finished with 176 total tackles while earning praise for his football intelligence, physical playing style, downhill aggression, instincts, awareness, leadership qualities, and overall toughness. Evaluators even compared some aspects of his game to Brian Urlacher, highlighting the type of complete linebacker Detroit has developed. There is still one area where Campbell can elevate his game even further. Despite demonstrating strong coverage ability according to his performance grades, creating more turnovers remains the next major step in his development. If he begins adding interceptions to go along with his tackling production and overall defensive impact, many believe he could climb even higher in future rankings. The physical tools, instincts, and leadership are already there. Adding more takeaways could push him into an entirely different conversation among the NFL's elite linebackers. The Lions also received major recognition in the secondary, where Brian Branch continues establishing himself as one of football's premier safeties despite battling injuries. He was ranked 4th at his position, an impressive accomplishment considering evaluators acknowledge that injuries played a role in his slight drop compared to previous expectations. Even while dealing with physical setbacks, Branch continued making impactful plays whenever he was on the field. His versatility, physicality against the run, and ability to affect passing plays remain qualities that separate him from many other defensive backs across the league. The biggest question moving forward isn't about talent, it's simply about health and how quickly he can return to full strength. If he returns to form, Detroit's secondary immediately becomes significantly more dangerous. Alongside Branch, Kirby Joseph also earned recognition by landing 9th among NFL safeties. League evaluators highlighted perhaps the most valuable part of Joseph's game, his remarkable ability to find the football and create turnovers. That skill has consistently changed games for Detroit's defense, giving the Lions momentum in situations where a single takeaway can completely shift the outcome. Joseph's instincts, ball skills, and knack for forcing critical turnovers have become defining characteristics of his game. Combined with Branch's versatility, the Lions possess one of the league's most talented safety duos when both players are healthy. Their ability to create game-changing plays has become one of Detroit's biggest defensive strengths, and those around the NFL clearly recognize that impact. What makes all of these rankings especially encouraging is that they illustrate something much bigger than individual recognition. Detroit now features elite talent across nearly every level of the roster. The offensive line, backfield, quarterback, tight end, linebacker group, edge rushers, and secondary all include players considered among the NFL's very best. That kind of balance isn't common, and it's exactly what championship caliber teams strive to build year after year. At the same time, one major conversation still remains unfinished. There is still another position waiting for its national rankings, and many Lions fans are already watching closely to see exactly where Amon-Ra St. Brown will ultimately land among the league's wide receivers. Considering everything he has accomplished, expectations are naturally high, but whether the national evaluators fully agree remains to be seen. Do you think Jared Goff, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, and Kerby Joseph received the respect they truly deserve in these rankings, or do you believe several of them should have been placed even higher? And that may be the biggest takeaway from all of these rankings. This isn't simply about individual awards or off-season lists that people will forget once the regular season begins. It's about the growing perception around the league that the Detroit Lions have assembled one of the deepest collections of elite talent in football. When executives, scouts, and front office personnel repeatedly place players from the same roster among the NFL's best at multiple positions, it tells you this team is no longer being viewed as an underdog. Detroit is now being judged by championship standards. That also creates an entirely different level of expectation. Every player receiving national recognition will enter the season with a target on his back. Opposing coaches will spend countless hours studying Jared Goff's tendencies, searching for ways to disrupt his rhythm in the pocket. Defensive coordinators will build game plans designed to limit Jahmyr Gibbs' explosiveness. Offensive coordinators will try to avoid Brian Branch and Kerby Joseph whenever possible, knowing how quickly those two can change a game with a single play. But that's exactly where great teams want to be. Instead of hoping people notice them, the Lions are now forcing everyone to acknowledge what they've built. The roster is filled with proven veterans, ascending young stars, and players who continue improving every season. That's not something that happens overnight. It's the result of several years of smart drafting, player development, and maintaining a consistent identity throughout the organization. Looking specifically at Jared Goff, it's difficult to ignore how much his reputation has changed compared to only a few years ago. There was a time when many people questioned whether he could even lead a contender. Now, league evaluators openly recognize his consistency, decision-making, and production. Throwing for roughly 9,100 yards and 71 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons isn't the profile of a quarterback simply benefiting from the system. Those numbers require accuracy, durability, chemistry with teammates, and the ability to execute at a high level week after week. Yet even with those accomplishments, there are still debates about whether he belongs among the NFL's very best quarterbacks. That probably won't disappear until Detroit takes another significant step as a team. Fair or not, quarterbacks are often judged by postseason success more than regular season production. Goff has already proven he can lead one of the league's most productive offenses, but another deep playoff run would likely silence many of the remaining critics once and for all. The same can be said about Jack Campbell. His rise has been impressive because it reflects exactly the type of player Detroit believed they were drafting. His physicality, football intelligence, leadership, and ability to control the middle of the defense have all become strengths of this football team. The only missing piece, according to many evaluators, is generating more takeaways. If interceptions begin matching his tackle production, there's every reason to believe his ranking could climb dramatically in future evaluations. Brian Branch and Kerby Joseph present another fascinating storyline. When healthy, few safety combinations offer the versatility and playmaking ability that Detroit possesses. Branch impacts every level of the defense with his toughness against the run and his effectiveness in coverage, while Joseph has developed a reputation as one of the league's true ball hawks, constantly finding opportunities to create momentum-changing turnovers. Health, of course, remains the biggest factor. Talent talent has never been the question with either player. The challenge is making sure both are available when Detroit needs them most. If they stay on the field together, this secondary has every opportunity to become one of the most disruptive units in the NFL. What's remarkable is that the Lions still have another major offensive star waiting to receive his evaluation. Wide receiver rankings are still to come, and that naturally shifts attention toward Amon-Ra St. Brown. After everything he has accomplished, expectations are understandably high. Whether the final ranking satisfies Detroit fans or creates another debate remains to be seen, but if the pattern from these positional lists continues, the Lions will once again have another player recognized among the league's elite. When you step back and look at the complete picture, it's hard not to notice how different the conversation surrounding Detroit has become. Instead of asking whether the Lions have enough talent to compete, people are now debating exactly where their stars rank among the NFL's best. That represents a dramatic shift from where this franchise stood only a few years ago. Now comes the most important part. Individual recognition is encouraging, but none of these rankings guarantee victories once the season begins. Every player will have to prove once again that these evaluations were deserved. Expectations have never been higher.